A prosperous new year from Independent Television and Radio.
Alright guys, it's another lovely Monday evening and it's my pleasure to have you join me on yet another beautiful episode of the Guys Hangout Show on Independent Television, reaching you live from that city of bronze. You know I love to call it that city where the king is truly king. Now for starters, the Guys Hangout Show is one show that, teaches men to prioritize themselves and of course, to be the best that they can be, just so that they can give the best that they can give. It airs on this station every Monday. All right, my name is Harry Aigboje, and of course, it's my pleasure to have you join us on this episode of the show. Now, today, we're going to be taking a look at a very, very important topic, something that actually caught my attention of recent. Okay, sometimes you're just going about your daily activities, and then you just, for a second, certain things just cross your mind, and you begin to ask yourself, what has actually changed? What has gone wrong? How come things are no longer the way they used to be? And one of such things is the growing lack of parental discipline in our society as we have it today. What exactly went wrong? Whether you like it or not, you must have noticed that things are no longer the way they used to be, especially between parents and their kids. Those days when we were growing up, some of us had this reverence for our parents, right? Even in their absence. There were things we're not bold enough to do, we're not courageous enough to do, even in their absence, because of the kind of discipline that they gave us, right? So, for instance, I remember as a kid, I used to live within my boundaries as a child, right? I was not allowed to go to the next compound. Now, that was how I was raised. Not because my parents didn't like us being free, but they just wanted to ensure that we lived within the boundaries that they set for us. Now, I'm sure a lot of you out there can also relate. Now, if you take a look at the parents of today, it doesn't seem to be like that anymore, right? A lot of parents seem to be more flexible in raising their children. Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? My name is Harry Aigboje once again, and it's my pleasure to have you join us on this episode of the show. Now, like you already know, I'm not alone. I've got an amazing person in the house with me, and together we're going to be taking a look at this topic. Now, he is an educationist and also, a social analyst. He's really passionate about lots of things that are happening around us, and he loves to share his wealth of wisdom and experience on such matters. It's good to have you, Abu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harry. And as usual, it is good to be on the show today again. It is always a pleasure talking about issues that concerns us in society, especially issues like this, where if we keep quiet, things will get deteriorated and it will get out of hand.
True.
So, bad things try because good men decide to keep quiet.
Absolutely.
So we must say something.
Definitely, we must say something, and that's basically why we're here. I mean, we really can't help not to say something, all right? Now, we're going to be taking a look at this issue as we begin to look at it one after the other, right?
Okay.
Let's look at it from this angle. Parenting is serious business, right? And I don't think a lot of parents realize that, a lot of parents of this generation, because there seems to be this trend of people just giving birth without recourse to the responsibility of taking care of those children. So let's start from there. Why would anybody want to, start having kids without, considering what it will take and what it will cost, to take care of those children?
Yeah, procreation is one biological gift that God and nature has given to humans. Okay. So any adult who has gotten to a certain stage can procreate, except he or she has a medical condition. Okay. But procreation is not a yardstick to be called a parent. So we have so many fathers and mothers who are not parents. Being a parent means you are ready for the job after birth. Birthing a child is your God-given talent or God-given gift.
Your natural ability.
That natural ability. But the idea of training this child, parenting, is a full-time job. I say full-time job because it's one thing that people just overlook, and because of that they think because they are fathers they could be called parents. No. We have so many fathers, but few parents. So it's because of these few parents that we have in society that you see there is a growing lack of discipline in terms of parenting and all that. So I think the few parents that we have, if you see their children outside, you can distinguish them from those that have fathers and just mothers. So I think we should be seeing this thing from the idea of who are parents, to be precise. Okay. A parent is that person who is a father or a mother and has indulged herself into the act of bringing up this child. You know, children, the mind of a child is like a tabula rasa. Whatever you imprint on that mind is what goes a long way to determine what the child will become in life or how the child will behave and all that. But we really have people imprinting these things on the mind of the child. That is the question.
I think that's $1 million question, because this is one question I believe a lot of parents do not ask themselves before they begin to procreate. Like you've rightly established, there's a clear difference between procreation
there is.
and parenting. And I think that's what we need to begin to establish. What exactly is it with parents of nowadays? You know, just like I said in opening, you know, when we were growing up, it was a different ball game, right?
Yeah.
We were raised with a very high level of discipline. So much so that parents of this generation will probably see that as you being too hard on your child.
Okay.
Now, what's the place of discipline in parenting? Let's begin.
There are different factors that I think I will tie to this lack of parental discipline. Number one, the infiltration of Western culture into our traditional belief and norms. Secondly, we also have this idea of laziness on the part of some people who call themselves, I use the word who call themselves parents, laziness on their part. And thirdly, there is this idea of the growing new normal, where people advocate that children should be treated with, like adults, they should be treated with kids and gloves and all that, so that you not hurt them. And so after all, they are human beings. So, but let me start with this infiltration of Western culture into our traditional culture. Now, you see, the white men asked us at the time to marry a fellow man, a woman marry a fellow woman. Many of us did not dispute it. Some African countries are already doing that. They also asked us to wear the suit, the sleeve, the waistcoat, the tie, and all that, despite our hot weather. Many of us did not also dispute that fact. Okay. And we are doing it. But very recently, they are also asking us to treat a child as an adult. And so many parents have started, many fathers and mothers have started treating their children as adults. That's the problem. They want to train them in the Western way. They want their children to see themselves as adults. They are rushing them through that childhood. They don't want them to enjoy that childhood. They don't want them to see themselves as children. That state of innocence is no longer there. A child that just here, you call that child that you want to reason with the child like an adult. What's his reasoning capacity in the first place? My brother, what is the rationale behind you sitting a child down to say, let's discuss? You are just 4 now. And who told you that a 4 years old is thinking like an adult already? It's not. I know many will say this is a computer age and jet. Leave that computer age and jet. Children are children. And most of how were we brought up? We were told that if you misbehave, I will flog you. I have so many parents in my area. My father was not just my father. Yes, he was my biological father, but I have so many fathers. Before my father even come back from his workplace, someone else have disciplined you if you misbehave and all that. Do we still have such in our society? No. You see, everybody wants to say my family.
So you're saying that in those days there was a communal mindset?
A communal mindset. All parents were parents. And all children were children to all parents. Now, these days, you see families saying, you don't touch my child, I know how to discipline my child, you leave this child for me to discipline and all that. So that's why we're getting children that are going haywire. Some of them are even going gaga. You know, some of the hairstyle that a 10-year, 11-year-old will put on, you begin to wonder, is this one coming from a home? You see some young girls out there, 11, 10, some of the things they will wear, like, does this one even have fathers and mothers at home? So the issue now is we are drinking too much from this cup of Western wine. I think we should come back home. We should come back to this African tradition. We are Africans. And in Africa, there is discipline intrinsically buried in our totemic mindset. It is on our subconscious. That discipline should be resurrected. That parents should see themselves as not just parents, but as role models, as disciplinarians. Correct these children when need be. Don't reason with a child. It gets to a certain stage, you reason with him, not at this stage. It is some of those things that you imprint on him when he was still a child, that will model him into a very good adult. A good child definitely will become a good adult.
Absolutely.
Now, when you lead them, you think they can think of themselves. What you fail to tell them, their friends out there will tell them. And that is what we should avoid. So that idea of Western culture, I think we should come back home. Beside that, sir, this idea of laziness on the part of parents. They think now that you already have a child. So if you can provide for this child, you are performing the work of a parent already. The provision we are talking about here is not just finance. Many of them thought it's just finance. He's attending a very good school, I can provide. If he wants to buy anything, I can give him more. No. Emotionally, psychologically, this child needs you. Morally, you should be there for him. Who are his friends? Do you even know his friends? What are his routine? How does this child carry out his daily activity? You should be your child's best friend. You should have a roundtable talk most times with him. You should be able to tell him, if you try that, I will flog a lot of you and he will not try it. Don't let him see himself like an adult already. You hardly even see children these days bathing outside. And someone said it's civilization. I think they know too much.
Okay.
Their parents make them know too much.
So why they've gone past the phase of innocence.
You see that state of innocence? It has been killed. Every child now, the parents have been able to inculcate in them that they are no longer children, but they are now what? Adults. And there is no way a child can behave like an adult. He will be an adult in a wrong form. So let these children grow. Okay. Correct them. Discipline them. Be a disciplinarian. Right. You don't rub men with a child of 5.
Okay. Now, you've actually said a lot. Now, talking about the infiltration of Western culture, just recently I saw a video on Facebook of this American comedian, veteran comedian, Steve Harvey. He was actually interviewing a kid, a 5-6-year-old girl. So he was asking her why she liked her brother, why she loved her brother. And she was saying, well, she loves her brother because, her big brother, of course, because he's always there to protect her and to comfort her when, her parents whooped her. And then, of course, the crowd, reacted in laughter and all of that. Now, I went through the comments as usual, and I saw a lot of persons asking questions, and a lot of people, complaining that it was totally out of place for the parents to, whoop her or to discipline her. And, of course, it became a debate as usual. Now, that pretty much reminds me of something. The fact that this is also becoming a major issue in this part of the world, whether or not to discipline a child. Because some people see the use of corporal punishment as a sign of hatred for the child. That how can you, use corporal punishment for a child that you love? So they see it as, you doing too much. They believe you shouldn't use corporal punishment on your child, that there are other ways. Just like you said, some of them believe you can reason with your child. But how do you reason with a child whose mind is not even matured enough to look at things from that perspective? I think what we have is actually a problem, because people want to mistake smartness, intellectual exposure to maturity. Yeah. And I think that's a problem. I would like you to speak in that regard.
You see, words get their meaning from their context.
Okay.
What they call maltreatment in a particular context, in another context might be called discipline.
Discipline.
So when that people say you are hitting that child too hard, you're beating this child and all that. But I think in the right context, when it comes to my child or any other child, or any other child around me, it should use that right word, discipline. We were once children, sir. They did not kill us.
Of course not.
We are what we are today because of how our parents decided to straighten our life. At least our parents are not beasts. They know what they are doing. You don't expect a mother who gave birth to a child to kill that child with her own ends, except she's maniacally derailed and all that. Yeah. When children are being disciplined with love, you can discipline a child with love. There is no need you bringing in ideas of you are abusing the child rights and all that. He is a child, for God's sake. The reason why you are saying I am abusing his right because you want to protect that child. The reason why I even discipline that child is to protect the child also. Now, this is what the government are fighting against, is that you should not abuse, assault a child. Discipline will get to an extent, it becomes an assault.
So that's where we need to draw the line now. At what point does discipline become an assault?
When you begin to inflict serious pains,
Bodily harm.
bodily harm on this child, it is not an assault.
Okay.
When you are not correcting the child with love, it becomes an assault. When you are doing it with hatred, it becomes an assault. When you forget the fact that this person is still a child, it becomes an assault. But when you are doing it in the circumstances of these things I'm saying, like he's a child, I want to correct him with love, he's my child, and all that, that is discipline. And we should not rule out discipline because some persons are misusing it. I know I am not in line with so many parents or guardians who have decided to inflate pains on children because you want them to listen. No, that is beyond discipline. Okay. That is now an assault. That is now an hatred. That is now a corporal punishment. And if I ask my child to kneel down there, for example, or get a cane and give my child 2 or 3 strokes of the cane for doing something wrong, next time he will not try it. But if you now give a punishment that is more than that child, to that child, then it becomes an assault.
An assault, okay.
You're asking a child, for example, you get pepper, rub on the child's body, or give the person some scars, marks, and all that. No, that is wicked and that is evil. But you're asking the child to kneel down there, or get a cane, flog this child 5 times or more, as the case may be, and after all this, call the child, next time, don't try it. I am your father, I love you, and that's why I'm doing this. I hope you will not try it next time. Such a child will not try it. But you're not letting the child know the reason why you have flogged him or disciplined him and all that. It is hatred.
Hatred.
So we should draw the line between discipline and hatred. So I am not advocating for that idea of that battering, that corporal punishment. Yeah. I am saying we should not rule out the fact that these children are still children. And children have a mindset that is as clean as a tabula rasa. So we have to imprint something that they will take up into becoming a very good adult.
I guess that's why the Holy Book says that you should train up your child in the way he should go, that when he's old, he will not depart from it. All right, guys, it's still the Guys Hangout Show on Independent Television. Just in case you're just joining us, we're talking about the decline in discipline, parental discipline. What has gone wrong? What exactly is the problem? Why is it that, kids are no longer as disciplined as before? Why is it that kids nowadays can just do whatever they want without, their parents or a parental figure, putting them in check? Now, Abu, just a moment ago, you were talking about the difference between correcting in love and correcting, in hatred, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's no longer uncommon to see children just walking past an adult without greeting. And that was actually one of the things that we were taught as, children. And that was exactly one of those values that we grew up with, which is why we cannot see someone who's older than us now
and not greet.
Don't you think that's also a function of this lack of discipline?
The dysfunctionality of the society, that's one of the factor, one of the things we got from the dysfunctionality in the society. Why did I say so? I just told you not quite long that all parents be a parent to all children. An elder can call you back and say, so you don't know how to greet. Where are you from? You say, I'm sorry, sir. Good morning, sir. Or in my dialect, you greet according to your family lineage, and you must do that. That's how we grow up. But these days, many parents have restricted themselves from doing that. Before someone else will come somewhere and say, don't talk to my child, it's my child, I know how to train my child and all that. So that communal nature is no longer there. And you can see, that is just a microcosm of the larger one. You could see, apart from this idea of greeting, you could see children, they hardly even get up from the seats for an elder to sit, if that's you listen to
That's another dimension to it.
Now, you see some of them, they are very disrespectful. They have begun to euphemize what we call disrespect. You see some of them will say savage reply. What you might want to call obscenity,
I think that's one of the effects of
stupidity, social media. Yeah. You see some of them will say, there's a new one now, we listen, we don't judge.
That's not even good.
They are indirectly promoting children to go haywire.
Go wild.
They are promoting this idea of you can always do whatever you want to do. And they are promoting immorality.
And the question we should even be asking is, what do we call judge in this context? Judging is discipline. Discipline we're talking about.
It is a discipline they want to eradicate.
When a child does something wrong, you're supposed to discipline that child.
So you say,
but to children of this generation,
you listen, you don't judge. I mean, you say, you listen, you don't judge. Besides that, sir, you see, when these children were growing up, They were given this orientation that I am your father, I am your mother, I am the only person, I should be the only person that has a moral right to discipline you. And that's bad. Let these children know that all parents in this vicinity are your parents.
Even adults.
Even adults.
Not
They
necessarily
have the right
parents.
to discipline you in my absence. When I was growing up, something happened. I went home to tell my father that a teacher has flogged me in school. He said, okay, the next morning we'll go. He followed me to school. And when we got there, he took the cane himself and flogged me again right in front of the teacher. These were adults in unity. Adults having a meeting over me that I don't even know about. Their primary aim then was, this child must not go wayward. Now that I am an adult, I used to think like, okay, could it be the reason why my dad have to flog me again? You know, that sends a message. The message was, you are safe in his hands and don't misbehave because I'm your father. I will flog you again. But these days, we've seen parents that will follow their children to school and start constituting nuisance. Some of them will not even ask. You'll be telling your child right from the home that your teacher will die today. You are giving that child an impression that he or she can disrespect
An elder and
get away with it. I'm your mother, I will always fight for you. You are creating a small problem that will blossom into a bigger one in society tomorrow. A child you couldn't discipline today will end up in prison. And they'll start crying. Discipline your child. Teach these children societal value. The values, one of the values that will hold tenaciously to in Africa is respect. They should be respectful. Leave this idea of we are in a civilized world, this is a computer age. And in America, you don't touch a child like that, they'll call the police on trust Nigeria police.
Okay.
They'll be very quick to tell you, no, it's not like that. You must respect your parents and all that. So that is one of the factors.
Okay.
Though there are other factors. There are factors that we have this single motherhood and fatherhood.
Yeah.
It's also a contributing factor.
Broken homes.
A broken home. Now, if a child is coming from a broken home, that parental care, love will not be there. Of course, it's not easy for one person to train up a child.
Okay.
You need a father figure, you need a mother figure, and this person is not there. Definitely, it will affect the child's psychology, and that will metamorphose into an adult that will be antisocial,
Okay.
or that will be maladjusted in society.
All right.
So that is another angle.
Okay, once again, it's the Guys Hangout Show, and tonight we're taking a look at the issue of the lack of parental discipline. What has gone wrong? What is the difference between the way it used to be and the way it is now? Now, Abu, in closing, I just wanted to give a word of advice to parents out there who are not living up to expectation in terms of disciplining their child. Those who think, letting their child get away with everything they do is a sign of love. What's your advice for them? In less than,
They
1
shouldn't
minute.
be just a father or a mother.
Okay.
They should be parents. And parenting is not an easy job.
Okay.
If you are capable of giving birth to a child, you should be able to take good care of that child. Don't be scared. Don't be scared to discipline your child.
Don't be scared to discipline your child. I guess that's the parting word for tonight. I want to say a big thank you to you, Abu, for taking out
Thank you, my brother.
time to be with us on the show today. And of course, to every one of you out there who have created time to be with us. I hope you've taken something away from tonight's discourse. Of course, the most important thing to take away from this is parenting is serious business. All right? So the moment you decide to become a parent, just have it in mind that the future of that child lies in your hands. If that child is going to grow up to become a responsible person, it's totally up to you. And of course, it's up to the adults that child is surrounded by. So another thing that Abu said in the course of his analysis is that parenting doesn't just end with you as a parent. You should also give the adults around your child the responsibility of raising your child, just like it was in the olden days. Don't have this mindset that you are the only one who has the responsibility of taking care of that child. My name is Harry Igboje, and until I come your way again, same time, same station next week, do ensure you do the right thing and stay out of trouble. Do have yourself a lovely night rest.
Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year from Independent Television and Radio.
All right, you welcome to our program on television, African Discourse, the program that comes away at this time every Monday on independent television. My name is Heather Zunukogi, and of course I'm the host of this program. Well, today on the program, African Discourse, we are going to be doing something that you never expect, but it's part of the discussions that we do. Because when we talk about the program Africa Discourse, we look at issues on the continent of Africa. So today we are going to be talking about AFCON. I'm talking about the African Cup of Nations that started yesterday in Morocco. And we're also going to be looking at how it exactly impacts on the continent of Africa. And to discuss all this with us this afternoon, we are so privileged to have an affairs analyst. And if you like, you can stretch it further to call him a foreign affairs analyst and also a sports enthusiast. He's also a political analyst too. Please join me to welcome Ahmed Mamadou. And Ahmed Mamadou is joining us virtually this afternoon, all the way from Houston in the United States of America. Mr. Ahmed Mamadou, good afternoon and welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, Evans. Good morning to your viewers. Good afternoon, rather, to your viewers, and thank you for having me on the show.
Okay. All right, so let me say compliments of the season to you. Merry Christmas in advance and a prosperous New Year in advance to Ahmed Mamadou.
Thank you so much. Thank you indeed.
All right then. All right, so like what I said, that we're going to be looking at AFCON, the African Cup of Nations, how it impacts on the African continent. Now, I'll give you a background of the AFCON because we are told that the African Cup of Nations, commonly referred or abbreviated as AFCON, and officially known as the African Cup of Nations, is the main biennial international men's association football competition in Africa. It is sanctioned by the Confederation of African Football, CAF, and was first held in 1957. Since 1968, it has been held every 2 years, switching to odd-numbered years. And in 2013, and on the 20th of December 2025, it was announced that the competition would revert to even number years and become a quadrennial event taking place in leap years from 2028. In the first tournament in 1957, there were only 3 participating nations, namely Sudan, Egypt, and Ethiopia. Then South Africa was originally scheduled to join, but was disqualified due to the apartheid policies of the government then in power. Then since then, the tournament has expanded greatly, making it necessary to hold a qualifying tournament. The number of participants in the final tournament reached 16 in 1998. The 16 teams were to compete in 1996, but Nigeria withdrew, reducing the field to 15. And of course, the same happened with Togo's withdrawal in 2010. And until 2017, the format had been unchanged, with the 16 teams being drawn into 4 groups of 4 teams each, with the top 2 teams of each group advancing to a knockout stage. On 20th of July 2017 and 2019 edition of the tournament was moved from January to June, and all the future tournaments were expanded from 16 to 24 teams. Then also, we understand that Egypt is the most successful nation in the Cup's history, winning the tournament 7 times, with Cameroon winning 5 times and Ghana 4 times. 3 trophies have been awarded during the tournament's history. The current trophy was first awarded in 2002. Egypt won an unprecedented 3 consecutive titles in 2006, 2008, and 2010. Then, of course, in 2013, the tournament format was switched to being held in odd-numbered years so that not to interfere with the FIFA World Cup. Ivory Coast are the tournament's current champions, having beaten Nigeria 2-1 in the 2023 final edition. So what that goes to show that is that the AFCON has, is being held every 2 years. So the last edition you saw AFCON was in 2023, that's about 2 years ago, whereby Ivory Coast had the final match with Nigeria, and of course Ivory Coast won that match, in that competition. So Thank God we are here, 2025, and we have the events going on. So as the program progresses, we're going to be maybe making recourse to, the way Morocco, the hosting nation, had to thrust Comoros yesterday 2-0. We are going to be making reference to all that. All right, so Ahmed Mamadou, one more time, you're welcome. So as we set the stage for this discussion, when we talk about AFCON, what exactly comes to mind? I mean, as an African and maybe as a sports enthusiast, what comes to mind when we say AFCON?
Thank you again for having me on the show, Evans. Good afternoon again to the viewers. And I think the AFCON is a celebration of the unity of the African countries in a sporting arena, similar to what is done in other continents, the European Union, the USA, etc., for example. And then it gives us an opportunity as Africans to engage in a form of brotherhood and celebration of our own sporting skills and abilities, and to bring to light some of the talents that the world stage will not ordinarily allow us to present them. And then also to showcase the skills, not just of the local players, but of the ones who may not necessarily have that kind of exposure on the global stage. It also gives us the chance to visit one another, to kind of fellowship, to understand a cross-cultural kind of visitation that allows the North, the East, the West. We're all one big continent, but if you look at the whole continent as a whole, we are very diverse, from the North to the South, East, West, etc. Even the Central African countries. So we all come together this time. Now it's twice a year. It's also going to change and become every 4 years, and then it continues to give us the opportunity to celebrate one another, to celebrate our skills, and to showcase not just the talents, but the African continent, investment opportunities, etc., etc. So it's a good opportunity for us to keep on allowing ourselves to fraternize with one another.
Allowing ourselves to fraternize with one another on the continent of Africa. But away from that now, Ahmed Mamadou, now when you look at the plethora of issues on the continent of Africa, the question that we ask is, do you think that an event like AFCON is going to be enough to further cement the continent together in terms of neighborliness, in terms of friendliness, and of course, most especially now that we have issues that borders into insecurity, maybe military junta taking power from democratically elected governments on the continent. So do you think that a tournament like AFCON can maybe remedy those kind of situations?
As you know, we've had, let's use the example of the Olympic Games, for example, where Hitler actually hosted the Olympic Games. And what we can draw from that is the fact that the sporting activities are an avenue for us to not just understand one another, but for opportunities to open dialogue, to see each other's point of view sometimes. If Hitler is going to host a sporting event, the benefits from it will be he wants to promote Germany at the time. So we are in Africa, we want to understand what is going on with each other. Generally, we look at the Northern Africans, which Morocco is part of, as more European than African. And this is a good opportunity for us to go there and find out what their own kind of culture is, how we are similar, and the ways we can bring ourselves together. As it regards the security implications and then what is going on in those in that sphere, as many opportunities that are available for us to intermingle, understand, discuss, and try and humanize one another, I think it's a very good opportunity. It's a very good idea. Let us use all of these opportunities to find out how we are more together than what puts us apart. And this is a perfect opportunity for such to carry on.
All right, so let us also talk about maybe the AFCON as a breeding point, a breeding ground for stars to be noticed. Because we understand that a lot of stars that have been discovered to Western world, to Europe, it was on this AFCON platform that they were discovered. You want to share light quickly on that?
So let's look at Nigeria as an example. We've had won title 3 times. times. We won the title in 1980, 1999, and 2013. Unfortunately, that was the last time we won, and I'm sure you and everybody that is watching is hoping that that's going to change this year. But it has brought to light our local talents. It gave us the opportunity to showcase some of our local talents and then not just present them to the world, but present them in a more comfortable format. There's such a thing as stage fright. So you have local talents who are suddenly thrust on the world and then they are unable to perform to Europe, the cold, or they bring them to the Americas and then the weather is different, etc., etc. But at home in Africa, they feel more at home. They are able to relate to the fans that are cheering them on, and then they are able to present their skills in their own natural environment without the pressures of being outside or taken away from home, working together with their own brothers who they've grown accustomed to playing with and practicing with, etc., etc. So it's a very good opportunity to showcase new talents in their own environment without the pressure of having to perform outside of their home where they may feel different kind of pressures that they are not used to.
Like what we saw yesterday, we saw Comoros, having it with Morocco, and at the end of the day, we saw Morocco beating Comoros 2-0. Now, it's also one thing that people, because like I told somebody yesterday, there are some nations, when you mention their name on the continent of Africa, you may readily agree that, okay, this country, it's an African country. Take, for example, if you say Ghana, you say Nigeria, you say Senegal, you say Burkina Faso, you say Ivory Coast and Liberia, you readily say that it is an African country. But when you begin to mention strange names, perhaps strange nations, Comoros, you begin to wonder, do we have this nation, on the continent of Africa? Perhaps the AFCON is also a way for us to really identify and begin to know the African nations, the African continent more. Quickly, let's also shed light on that.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, when you talk about a country like Comoros, so what like you've rightly pointed out, this has given also an opportunity to find out the geographical components of Africa. It's a good time to study, it's a teaching moment. I, for one, I've heard about Comoros, but when you talk about it, you wonder how good a country they are to be playing on this stage, to have defeated other countries to come to this point. But that's the beauty of it. By expanding the participation of the AFCON competition, it allows more people to come in, and it allows us to fraternize with far distant members of the African confraternity that we would otherwise not be able to fraternize with. So imagine a situation now where we have Nigerian players who have always been at home, mixing with the Comoros delegation or mixing with Equatorial Guinea, etc., etc. So these are new opportunities that we need to be taking advantage of, and they give us also the opportunity to showcase our own skills and talented young men and women.
So again, the hosting nation now, Morocco, I remember it was on this program that you and we discussed when preparations were on top gear, about this tournament, this AFCON 2025. Now we saw Morocco almost turned into a country of war. I mean, it was the first time we saw a set of people known as the Gen Z2, population. In other words, young people in Morocco, young Moroccans took to the streets protesting, asking the government to pay more attention rather than hosting this kind of tournament. Now, I don't know, because it looks as if that some persons in Africa may not just be on the same page with the government of the day. What do you think is really going on in this regard?
So I think opposition to spending in any regard is a normal thing. What the youth at the point in time, I think our discussion centered around that, was their insistence that this money should not be spent on outsiders when there are so many key parts of the economy that haven't been developed. They were talking about healthcare, they were talking about local infrastructural development, they were talking about access of funding, they were talking about job creation, and they were just generally talking about the whole quality of life. And they felt that the government at the time was spending too much resources to allow outsiders come and celebrate the AFCON. But what we have seen is that it can be a win-win situation where the government uses the money to create infrastructural development that is to be used beyond the celebration of AFCON. I think everybody feels a little more settled. All of those agitations haven't entirely gone away. But as you know, football always brings people together. So the local population has decided that for now, let us put all these things at abeyance. Let us see what AFCON is going to bring and let us enjoy the moment. So I think things have settled down a little bit for now, and we are hopeful that to continue to be that way. The government needs to reprioritize after this event and then refocus its energies on its local population and continue to assure them that it has their best interests at heart. And I think that will bring an end to some of these agitations that we saw.
So like we said earlier on, I mean, talking about when the AFCON started sometime in 1957, when we had the first African Cup of Nations. Now, it's been about 67, 68 years that we've had AFCON. There was a time that it was every 4 years, but for the fact that it would have to clash with the FIFA World Cup, then it was now reduced to every 2 years. So as it stands now, the AFCON tournament comes every 2 years, while the FIFA World Cup is every 4 years. But let's take our mind back to perhaps to when AFCON started. So what would you want to say are the maybe areas that AFCON may have developed for the past this past 67, 68 years of this tournament on?
So I think just beyond the AFCON itself, I think we should have developed to the point where I think the women tournaments, possibly youth tournaments, and then not just all of these tournaments, but even avenues that local talents are able to harvest. Perhaps we're talking about academies, schooling opportunities, and other areas that they will focus more, not just on the physical development, but academic and some kind of educational development. We have a few countries who develop their own programs to bring these children, bring players from the basic level, right from primary through secondary to the actual game level where they are now, where they'll be participating in AFCON. As you know, AFCON is an age-based tournament. So to bring it down to younger groups, younger players to reach into the countries and look for this talent and promote them and bring them out. That's something I would like to see the AFCON system develop better at.
Young talents now, instead of having a tournament that only is for sports. So you are saying that the kind of competition should also be spread into some other aspects of life. Take for example in education. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying soccer academies that not just focus only on football, but they focus on other sports, academics, and even scholarships that allow them to, build the children, build players from the grassroots, build them soundly academically as well as physically for the sports.
All right, so over the time that this competition has been for the past 68 years now, we understand that there are some nations that may have dominated this competition. Take, for example, a country like Ghana that almost dominated the 60s edition, to the disadvantage of so many other countries. Then we've also had the like of DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. Then also we have also had the like of Liberia. Then now we have the like of Morocco. These are nations that are said to have dominated even in the likes of Cameroon. We understand that between 1980 and 1990, Cameroon managed to reach the final of the Africa Cup of Nations 3 times in a row, winning the competition twice in 1984 and of course in 1988, and losing once on penalties against Egypt in the 1986 edition. And the other dominant team during this period was Algeria, along with their solid 1982 and decent 1986 World Cup appearances. Now, what we're trying to say is that there are some nations that have dominated this AFCON over the years. Like what I mentioned, we have Ghana has been mentioned there. Then even the likes of Morocco has also been mentioned. Now, what would you say? Because it appears that is it necessarily the fact that some nations seems to have been more exposed to the prowess, to the ability of winning these tournaments, you know, at the disadvantage of other nations? Is that exactly the situation?
So football is one of those ephemeral sports that is difficult to pinpoint what it is that allows one nation to prosper above another. We have a large population, and one would think that our population will lead to dominance in that football field, but that has not been the case. My surprise, like you pointed out, if you look at the tables, you will see that Egypt has dominated it by winning 7 times, followed by Cameroon 5, Ghana 4, and then Nigeria and Ivory Coast are tied at 3 times each. Now, let's also point out, not to forget that Ivory Coast, I think, is the current champion. So, but when you look at a country like DR Congo that is also on the table of one of the frequent winners, and then Algeria, to the detriment of other countries that you think are powerful footballing nations, then you begin to wonder what is the main ingredient of it. To my mind, I would think it is some kind of affinity to the sport. Some of these countries have more of an affinity to football than any other sport. Some have it to cricket, some of them have it to basketball, etc., etc. So maybe that's one of the things. But I want to see Nigeria climb up this ladder and then come to be not just an economic powerhouse, but also a sporting powerhouse. We need to be able to compete with the likes of Egypt and find out what their secret is. Their secret to have held that title for 7 good years, 7 times, and then come up from third, only having held it 3 times. Possibly we are going to make it a 4th this time and then climb up better. But we need to do better to engage our sportsmen and women and to encourage them to bring out their talents at this level so that we are more competitive and that we are more successful when we go into competitions like this.
All right, so let's quickly talk about South Africa. I mean, South Africa has been in this tournament for quite some time, but if we go into history, we understand that in the 90s, the South African nation, that was during the era of the apartheid. You know, South Africa as a nation went through the apartheid period and all that, and that affected the country a great deal in their performance in the CAF competition. I mean, in the AFCON competition and all that. Now, what would you say about that, quickly?
So South Africa has been in a unique place where it was dominated by foreigners who claimed to be Africans. And then the apartheid system did not even help matters. So you had some countries that were having economic blockades, sporting blockades, as a way of pressuring the regime at the time to come to terms with the fact that they were an illegal regime. And then subsequently that pushed South Africa's participation backwards to the point where they were held back while others were progressing. Now South Africa is trying to catch up with some of these things. And in fact, they are dominating in a lot of sports. But I think a little time is going to come between when they are able to harness their full capacity and when we are going to see them be able to come out fully and dominate some of these sporting activities. Apartheid was the holdback. Now they're free. We are hoping that our brothers and sisters in South Africa are going to be able to make up the lost time they've spent and then come back into the Committee of Nations fully as a full-fledged member and want to be in the brotherhood of the African Committee of Nations when we celebrate things like this.
Now, there is also a sister competition that perhaps involve the whole world. I'm talking about the FIFA World Cup. Now, as we have the AFCON competition only for African nations, every 2 years we have the FIFA World Cup. Now, what would you say? Let me put it this way. Would you want to say that it is the AFCON that may have impacted on the FIFA World Cup, or the FIFA World Cup that may have impacted on the AFCON?
So if we look at the dominance of the players by ratio in AFCON versus FIFA, I want to say it's a symbiotic relationship, which is why we had to kind of make room for the clashes between AFCON and FIFA. It's easy to understand that once a player is taken out of his own comfort zone and he plays, for example, in the World Cup, he now becomes a national player. He now becomes a world player. But the interesting thing is where you see players from one nation that are participating in another nation. For example, if you look at the World Cup players for France, you would think you are talking about an African country. It's predominantly dominated by African players of African heritage. So it becomes an interesting, when you put that example, is it AFCON that is dominating the FIFA, or is the other way around? I think it's something that keeps on going back and forth. If you look at France, we have a lot of African players they are not just thriving there, they've taken over the whole thing. And it's happening in a lot of these other countries. So definitely AFCON is going to play a part where a lot of the talent is going to come, not just from Africa, but from Nigeria in particular. We've seen that happen, we've seen that explode, and we want to continue to hope that our players will keep on matching the skills that is required to play on the world stage and making us proud as they do that.
So the program is still African Discourse on independent television. We'll quickly go for a short break now, and when we return on the other side of time, we're going to look more how the AFCON has really impacted, impacted the world, as it were. I mean, just as what our guest said, Momodu, he said that the AFCON has been a breeding point whereby stars have been discovered, and these stars are Africans, and they are found almost everywhere on the surface of the earth. So when we return, we're going to be looking at how come these stars, I mean, the likes of Osimhen, the likes of Kanu Nwankwo, and of course the likes of once upon a time Rashidi Yekini, those guys, they were stars, but they never really stayed back home to really express their stardom, as it were. So when we return on the other side of time, we're going to be looking at all these whole issues. Please hold on. All right, thank you one more time. In case if you just joined us, the program is African Discourse on independent television. And on this program, we look at issues on the continent of Africa. And today, our focus is the AFCON competition in Morocco that started yesterday. So we're actually in the line, and we've said from that right from 1957, when AFCON started, it's been a whole lot of issues. And we have looked at how the tournament started every 4 years. Once upon a time, it was every 4 years. Then it moved to every 2 years, and back again. Then finally, it settled at every 2 years. And there was also a time that the tournament was set for every odd years. Then also to every even years as it stands. But as it stands now, it's every 2 years, and I think that's the best arrangement so far, so that it does not coincide with the FIFA World Cup that is every 2 years. So we've been talking about that as the program started, and our guest on this program has been Ahmed Momodu, who is joining us virtually all the way from Houston in United States of America. Now, Mr. Ahmed Momodu, we have so many stars, African stars, football stars, and for the purpose of this, perhaps I may just mention their names. We have the likes of Kylian Mbappe, of who we understand that plays for Paris Saint-Germain in Europe. Then is an African, is of African descent. Then we also have the like of Godi Gakpo of Liverpool. He plays for Liverpool. Is of African descent. Then Antonio Roja is of Sierra Leone, and he plays for Real Madrid. And also we have the likes of Irelin Chouameni, and he plays for Real Madrid. And we also have the likes of Ansu Fati, who plays for Guinea-Bissau. And he's of Guinea-Bissau by descent, by origin, and plays for Barcelona. Then we've also had the likes of our Nigerian players, the likes of Finidi George, Kanu Nwankwo has been there. Then JJ Okocha has been there and all that. Now, these guys made their home outside the continent of Africa. In other words, they never stayed back to, to be part of the stardom that eventually found themselves outside the continent of Africa. Now, what would you say, in your own way of looking at it, what are those factors, those issues that have kept them away? Let's begin to itemize them so that has it been political factors, political issues, economic issues, and all that that have made most African stars to have left the shores of Africa and find their stardom outside the shores of Africa?
So I think migration, for whatever reason, in this case, it's economic migration, is something that every human kind of aspires to. You want a better quality of life. You want to improve your skills to the best of your ability. You want to maximize your youthful years so that when you finally enter your retirement years, you are able to live a life of relative comfort and understand that you have a limited period of time to achieve these goals. So you'll find most of these players that you've mentioned, even when they've played and then they've exhausted their careers, they eventually come back home. But the question you're asking is, why is it that they are more attracted outside? I think it's the opportunities to showcase their talent, because we do not have as vibrant a local league as we do in some of these foreign countries. For example, the European League is one of the most vibrant, one of the busiest. It's so busy that sometimes the international world sporting competitions have to take into consideration their own schedule before they are planned. So you want to maximize your talent, you want to maximize the opportunity, you want to maximize the skills, you want to maximize all of the available information. Sports, for example, is way ahead in medicine, in terms of medicine. You have a footballer who injures his knee or has a fractured leg, and sports medicine will heal him faster than regular medicine. They are so far ahead. They are ahead in understanding how the human body functions, how the human body is expected to perform in certain conditions, and so on and so forth. So everybody wants to maximize the period that they are able to work and get the best out of their body. So you find a lot of migration to achieve that aim. One of the popular destinations besides Europe is also now, as is becoming more and more apparent, is the Middle East. You find a lot of people gravitating in that direction because they pay better. So in the twilight of some of their careers, after they've exposed themselves to the European League, they now retire back to the the Middle Eastern League, and then try and maximize those final twilight moments and reap as much financial benefits as they can. So let's not worry so much about how it is that they move or what it is that they do. But when the national call comes, and a lot of them answer the national call, we've had so many players who come, and unfortunately, we've even lost people who have come to answer the national call. If you recall the case of Samuel Karaji and so on and so forth. So we need to encourage, by and large, we need to encourage not just the local talent to build and fill in those gaps, but we also need to encourage the ones who feel greener pastures are where it is available for them. But whenever the national call comes, they come back and answer, as is the case as is going on right now with NAFCON. With AFCON.
About national call, but that seems to have been an issue that sports, enthusiasts and analysts have, also bear their mind to. Because, I'm not really a football enthusiast, as it were, but at times, whenever I'm opportune to watch these guys play. Now, I see the level of dedication and commitment that they put to nations that are hosting them. Take, for example, a JJ Okocha playing for a foreign nation. Now, a JJ Okocha will not play for his foreign team the way he will play for Nigeria. I'm just trying to, cite an example here. I'm not trying to say that that was how JJ Okocha played, but I think it is evidently clear that the amount of dedication that we see that these African stars give to their foreign clubs, they don't give such dedication to national assignment, home call assignments and all that. Now, the question that we ask to that is that, are the leaders aware, the African leaders, are they aware of this? And if they are aware, what are they doing and what are they not doing?
When we have the call, so the national call, some of the players don't give 100%. I say this with a little bit of reluctance because it's difficult for somebody that is outside to say that is not actually physically participating to say somebody doesn't give 100%. But we can only tell from the outside because it seems to be that they are a little bit reluctant. Reluctant in the sense that they don't get as much as they put in. This is also coming from the side of the local organizing committees, that sometimes you have issues about the payment of their bonuses. Sometimes you have the issues about the payment of their allowances. Sometimes you have where they are not able to transport themselves from one location to another, or the arrangements are inadequate and then the players have to come up. So there is a certain amount of reluctance because our own local organizing committees don't always meet the standard that is expected of them. They fall short a lot of times. So you find these players who come from organized societies, who come from situations where they are planning months ahead, and then you come to a local organizing committee where they cannot even plan the next day. It can be quite frustrating. And so you find that they don't give their 100% because there's a reluctance to put themselves out because they don't get the same amount of force back that they put into it. And then you have the local governments also, who are not always the best sponsors of some of these competitions. They don't allocate enough resources, manpower, time, or even energy to making sure that these goals are met ahead of time so that there's a seamless transaction, there's a seamless operation when the players show up and then when they want to perform or participate. If you recall a situation where some time back, it was reported that MKO Abiola, how he got the name, the pillar of sports, was that he had to physically follow the Nigerian team with his own private resources. He put his own personal jets, followed them all over Africa while they were playing. And that was the only way they were able to meet up and play their matches and be accommodated, etc., etc. So those are some of the things that put the reluctance, and we need to keep on emphasizing that beyond just being a game itself, it's a global, we're talking about footballers have now become global ambassadors. They now become the representatives of their country. And so when you see a shoddy arrangement with the footballing nation, then you know that the government itself is not handling the issues very well. So we are now in a state where the whole world looks on some of these competitions and they try and find out what the benefits of the country from the game that the footballers are playing and how it speaks of that country and its organizational abilities. So we need to take it more seriously. We need to put more emphasis on making sure that all these competitions are done smoothly and our players bring out the best every time they come out.
When you started this discussion this afternoon, you mentioned that the AFCON is one avenue whereby nations in Africa, come together with one understanding that they all belong together, under the same continent. Now, from the way the competition has been held, right from 1957, I mean, you have some nations that have hosted more than once or twice now, and there are some nations that it looks as if they may never have the opportunity to host this tournament, not because they don't want to, but I think there seems to be another politics that plays in the hosting right and all that. Now, let's look at these nations that it appears that they may never host. I don't want to say small nations now, but with all due respect to nations like maybe Niger, maybe Benin Republic, maybe Togo and all that now. Do you see those nations hosting the AFCON, say, in the next nearest future?
So let's never say never. Let's understand that as the demand for hosting rights continues to expand, these countries may come together. For example, the World Cup that is going to be hosted in America very soon is going to be a joint hosting. We're not going to have just one country hosting. So that's also an opportunity where it's also something that may be explored, where Benin, Togo, and some of those other African countries may do a joint hosting kind of situation, including even Nigeria. We will be able to assist them so that they can get the pride of hosting, because it's a very important thing, not just to participate, but to be a hosting nation. If you recall, back in 1996, South Africa did everything after the fall of apartheid to be a hosting nation. And they went all out to host the competition, the AFCON competition at the time. They did so well that they even won the championship of the AFCON at the time. So it's a thing of pride that all these countries are looking forward to. We call them small nations, but they can come together to come and host. You can have 3 or 4 countries that are in the same geographical location come together and host this competition. So let's not just look at it from the point of view of the size. Let's look at what is possible, because as the world becomes bigger, it also becomes smaller when we have that partnership. That also allows that integration that we're talking about. Imagine a situation where Benin, Togo, and a few other countries around there decide that they want to host globally. Now you have the French speaking, you have the English speaking. Imagine the diversity of it. So it's a beautiful thing. I think it's something that we all look forward to, and it's possibly going to happen in the near future.
All right, so quickly, as we comment at this end now, let's talk about 1 or 2 countries that are in this AFCON edition. Burkina Faso is there, the almighty Burkina Faso. Now, in African politics, some leaders begin to see the Burkinabes, maybe because of their leadership position as it stands now. I mean, Burkina Faso is being governed by a military junta, but they are at this AFCON. Ahmed Momodu, I don't know if there is any relationship between whether a nation is being governed by a military junta and the appearance of that same nation in the AFCON. Is there any relationship? Is there anything that we should bother, or you think there's anything we should talk about, in that regard?
So I think sports has generally been one of those areas where even juntas that take power and then come undemocratically onto their leadership stage have kind of shied away from involving themselves too much in. And even the regional bodies have kind of tried not to isolate countries that don't have democratically elected governments in place from pushing them aside, because it also forms an avenue, like we said earlier, it's a diplomatic avenue that needs to be explored. You don't just take away the pride, the pride, the sporting pride of a nation by refusing them access to some of these things. So yes, Burkina Faso is currently under a military dictatorship. Yes, everybody in Africa and West Africa in particular is saying this is not something that we want. But as much as possible, we still need to involve them in these things. And we still need to carry them along so that even the people don't feel neglected. They don't feel cast aside. They don't feel subjugated to the will of those who are bigger than them and able to dictate according to them. So some of these things, the politics is local. When you come to a regional or global stage, you want to put these things aside for the moment of those competitions, and then everything resumes as soon as the competition is over. So we'll welcome them for now. We'll keep having dialogue with them and hoping that things will normalize in those countries in the earliest possible time.
Just wrap it up quickly on the economic value that you think that this tournament is going to bring to the continent, quickly.
So you have so many, we have a global showcase, like we talked about. We're showing all of our players, we're showing all of our talents. There's infrastructural and economic growth particularly for the hosting nation. Morocco has used that to their advantage, and they are coming out to tell the world that these are their avenues and the things that you can come in and invest. We have the youthful population that is now exposing itself and its talents to the world. We have economic and infrastructural growth. We have cultural and national pride. National pride is something that is very important to the hosting nation. So however you look at Morocco, beyond this, every time you think about Morocco, you will not think of them not just positively in the way that they hosted, but also the things that they were able to bring about cultural rebirth, and then how they promoted themselves to the world. Then you have also a global appeal. So now Morocco is being mentioned at least for the next 2 weeks. Everything Morocco, Morocco, Morocco. So everybody's focusing, everybody's looking, what is Morocco about? You have more interest in the national, in what Morocco is able to bring to the world. So this is a time for them to promote themselves, and all the participating countries also have this opportunity to showcase themselves, their talent, what is good about them, and what they want the world to see.
All right, I want to say a very big thank you to you, Ahmed Mamodu, our guest on the program today. And we'll be looking at AFCON, that's the African Cup of Nations. And right from the time it started sometime in 1957, and we've seen how it has the time of the competition, talking about the time it has to be done, how it has changed. At once upon a time, it was every 4 years, from there to every 2 years, and to odd years and even years. Then later on, it moved back to every 2 years. Now, for some of the fixtures that we have, like today, we understand that Mali is going to be playing with Zambia at 3 o'clock. That's Nigerian time. Then South Africa is also going to be locking it down with Angola. Then Egypt, and also taking a dive on Zimbabwe. All are the three. All these are the three matches that we have today. That's today, be 22nd day of December 2025. Well, we are going to keep tabs and see how it goes on. Well, Ahmed Mamodu, thank you one more time on the program today for finding time to be our guest on the show.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me on, Evans.
All right, so this is where we draw the curtain today on the program African Discourse, and by the special grace of God, and next week, Monday, we're going to be here so that we wrap it up and take the very last edition for this year 2025 African Discourse. My name is Evans Sunokugie. Thanks for watching.
The man went out to bring in thugs to come and beat her.
Yeah.
In a situation like that, do you think women would have seen that and still want to speak?
Really, we're talking about. That's what I said. So when they bullied her,
Yeah.
if she's not bold enough, she will shut up.
What is your advice for girls out there that are so desperate to be married?
We women, we have to be really intentional about our parenting.
If you know a child is being abused, or you see signs, a bruise or a child, it has to be investigated.
People barely even breathe when they are going for a shrebi and something.
Party.
You have to be
They can't
smart.
sit
If
down.
you see where they are dressing them up or dragging on both sides, you cannot breathe. And these women will stay in those events for hours just to keep up with that beauty trend.
Is that healthy?
That's not healthy.
I am Patricia Uremu Gabriels, and we're reaching you live from our Lagos Network studio. Of course, Women in Conversation is a program designed for women to discuss about themselves.
Omonoba Nedu Ukwakolopolo, Ewai II, Oba of Benin, stepped out majestically with loud crowd to perform the Sultan rites of his late mother, Queen Mother Ioba Omoni Ikoyeme, Ioba Ewai II, who departed this world 49 years ago. Isoton is a traditional rite of the procession in memory of the departed person's spirit in Benin Kingdom. It is usually heralded by public display of the departed person's influence during their sojourn on earth. The display of a human effigy symbolizing the departed royal matriarch was preceded by the Oba of Benin, who led the procession from his palace to the Immortal Shrine at King Square in Benin City, where he offered prayers for the repose of the soul of the Queen Mother, Ioba Ewai II. Thereafter, a priest assigned to the Immortal Shrine offered Oba Ewai II items for Isoton on behalf of his family. However, chalk, known as Uri, represented a mixed cheer from royal fans after ancestral spirits were invoked to bear witness and announce his arrival. On his way home, Oba Ewai paid tributes at various pilgrimage sites, including Queen Idia Tomb, the Side Oba Market, where a cheerful crowd of traders abandoned their wares to catch a glimpse of the royal personage and join in the celebration.
ITV, certainly the best.
Thank you very much for joining us on the program, Healthy Living. What is the kidney?
The kidney is an excretory organ in the body, which is for metabolism.
Tuberculosis affects many organs in the body, but the common ones it usually affects is the lungs.
Epilepsy is a neurological problem.
Okay.
It is an injury in the brain, which causes someone to begin to convulse, to go into fits.
It is curable, but the cure is a long-term thing.
If you eat well and avoid those risk factors that will make your immunity to be down, then the risk of contracting tuberculosis will be reduced.
If you're healthy, then you're wealthy.